Good day, folks, and welcome to review number 64. Well, we're proving today that January was a good month for Soundwave collectors. Today we're going to look at the Transformers Generations Voyager Fall of Cybertron Soundwave. So, starting off looking at the packaging, Soundwave comes packaged in an all-new Generations packaging for the Voyager class. It features a large image of Soundwave here on the left side, and then the clear window showing the figure more towards the right side. The figure, it's also kind of a little odd because it's almost got this corner cut off down at the bottom, so it looks it actually looks a little unbalanced when you first look at the packaging, but I do like it. It's also got the throwback to the grid pattern from the G1 packaging here in the background, just like we saw on the new Generations Deluxe style packaging. The back of the packaging features images of the figure in robot and vehicle mode, as well as featuring Laserbeak. There's also an image over here showing off Soundwave's chest gimmick, which we'll go into a little bit later. You've also got the little short bio paragraph here, and the throwback tech specs here across the bottom. The left side of the packaging also shows off some images of the other cassette figures that are available in the, or data disc characters, I should say, that are available in the 2-packs. So here we have Soundwave in his robot mode. And at first glance, he looks pretty good. I have to admit, though, I'm not too familiar with the game model. I'm not really a gamer. I've only played War for Cybertron just a little bit, and that's about the extent of it. So I don't have a whole lot of experience with the actual character model, so I can't speak a whole lot as to how accurate he looks. But he does look very, very good. He looks well proportioned. So I'd say, and he definitely looks like Soundwave, so there's no doubt about who it is. As for articulation, the head, all you have is a swivel here, and it is very tight and very limited in movement. So you don't get a whole lot of head movement there. You have a swivel and hinged shoulder here, but another problem because of this kibble you've got here, if you can open it up, you might get a little more movement there, but some of the arm kibble actually kind of restricts his movement there. You've got a bicep swivel, a ratcheting elbow there. You have a hinged and swivel wrist there. No waist articulation. You've got a hinged and swivel hip joint there, thigh swivel, ratcheting knees, and you don't get any side-to-side ankle tilt, just forward and back tilt there. So his articulation could be better, but it's not too bad. One bit of molding on the figure that I found kind of interesting was the way they molded his finger on his left hand. And it almost looks like they tried to make it so he could push his eject button. And in a way, he can, but you really have to kind of maneuver his arm, and it's not easy. And to be honest, it really does not look natural. I mean, you can try to do it some different ways here, but yeah, no matter which way you do it, it just doesn't look good. It doesn't give that real iconic Soundwave pose of pressing his eject button like you can get from the Masterpiece figure. So it looks like they attempted it, but didn't really succeed. I do really like the head sculpt on this Soundwave figure. It's definitely a very iconic Soundwave look, and they also did a very good job with the light piping on this figure. You can see that his visor, I mean, it really does glow well, so it picks up a lot of light. So I'm digging the head sculpt. Now, of course, as I mentioned in my Masterpiece Soundwave review, the key feature for a Soundwave toy has to be the tapes. And this figure has it. He's got a eject button, and you've got the data discs now rather than tapes, since this is a more of a Cybertronian mode. But what you've got here is you can place the data discs in here, and you can store up to 3 of them inside his chest. And then what happens is, as you put them in, you get this big plunger sticking out the back. So really, if you want to display this figure, unless you can hide his backside, you don't want to display him with tapes inside. But then you can push this in and deploy the tapes or the data discs that way. So now let's take a quick look at Laserbeak, the one data disc that comes with Soundwave. So here we have Laserbeak, the one data disc that comes with Soundwave. And really, I'd put this figure kind of along the lines of a bot shot. There's really not a whole lot to him. Just collapse him down like that, and he's in his data disc mode. And then there's a little trigger button here on the bottom side, so that when he hits the ground, he automatically spring-loaded transforms. Like I said, there's not a whole lot to him. He doesn't really look a whole lot other than the head. That's the kind of the one thing that really does make him look like Laserbeak. And they really didn't put any paint apps on this head either. I've seen a few people do just a little bit of touch up, paint the eyes, maybe put a Decepticon emblem on his head, which it looks like it was designed to go there. But yeah, do a few touch-ups like that, and you could probably make him look a little bit better. But I'm not too impressed with the look of the data disc, at least this one. So the way this gimmick really ends up working is you take the data disc here and load it into Soundwave's chest. Now, it is pretty snug, so it's a little hard to get in, and then push it in, and then when you want to deploy it, you push the plunger on the back, and the figure goes flying. And you get your transformed Laserbeak then. Like I said, the tolerances are pretty tight on there. I can understand that. I think, though, if you look inside, there's just a couple rails in there. They could have put a little bit more to stabilize it in there, but they have to keep it tight so that the disc doesn't want to misalign when you're pushing it out. But at the same time, it makes it kind of difficult. And the other issue is because of the way his wheels are on the back here. If they're in too far, when you're pushing the plunger in, this back plate will hit those, and it can be hard to push the plunger. Well, obviously, it stops it. So there's a couple issues with execution on this gimmick. I think it's a neat idea. I just think there could have been a little bit better way to go about it. And the only other experience I have with this particular version of Soundwave is the deluxe figure that came out in the previous line of Generations figures. Now, let's take a look to see how the two compare. I think the paint apps are much better on the Voyager, and I also prefer the proportions of the Voyager. However, a couple things about the Deluxe that do stand out. His articulation is about the same, if not a little better, because the Deluxe has ankle tilts. Now, not like the whole figure is hinging on ankle tilts, but it is one little advantage. They also included Soundwave's gun, which I think his gun is almost as key to part of his image, and I wish they would have included that with the Voyager. It would have made a nice addition to the figure. I don't know the character models, so I don't know which one is more accurate. Like I said, for looks and as far as a display piece, I would definitely go with the Voyager. So let's move on to Soundwave's transformation. Voyager Soundwave's transformation is very similar to that of the Deluxe figure. Now, given how the designers have managed to come up with so many different ways to transform the latest Optimus Prime design, I had actually expected something a little more varied. And because of this, and the fact that his chest is one big block due to that data disk gimmick, Soundwave ends up with one of the simplest Voyager-class transformations we've seen recently. But it's still a decent transformation. All of his parts seem to find their positions or clip in pretty well, with one notable exception. The front plate that forms the windshield and lower grille doesn't really tab into the parts from the upper arm that end up covering Soundwave's head. Now, since the joints on this plate are pretty loose on my figure, the front plate tends to flop around and can prove a little frustrating. So in the end, I have to rate this transformation as really kind of mediocre. So here is Soundwave's vehicle mode. And it's a Cybertronian vehicle of some sort. I've never been too fond of Cybertronian vehicles simply because they can make it look like however they want to fit the transformation. So, but I mean, he's not too bad. Some of the issues I do have with this vehicle, though, at least on mine, the front wheels don't really touch the ground. It's his back chest kind of that's hitting the ground. So when you roll it, the front wheels aren't really turning. He's sliding on, I guess it's kind of his waist anyway, that he's sliding on. So the front wheels aren't really touching. There's some gaps here too, which, this seems to be a similar problem that I've had with some of the other generation figures so far, especially Jazz. But I mean, a lot of the paint apps still show off. The other issue I have is the way the gimmick still works in the vehicle mode here too. You can still move the plunger forward and back, which that is neat, and you can open up his chest here. But the problem I have is the way this front piece, it doesn't want to stay in position because it has to be able to open up like that. And then you can, move the plunger forward and back and deploy the data disks. But because of this gimmick there, this piece, which I don't know if it's just mine or if it's loose on a lot of people, but it doesn't want to stay up like that. And if you bump it, it ends up collapsing down. So there's Soundwave's vehicle mode for what it's worth. Of the two versions of the video game Soundwave that are out there, the Voyager class Fall of Cybertron Soundwave is the better version. Now, it's still a flawed figure, but the gimmick, when it works, is pretty neat. And the proportions of the Voyager are much better than the Deluxe. I wouldn't go out of my way to get this figure, but if you see him on the store shelf, he's definitely worth considering.